This is Michael Kassner. He's written the book 100 Days. The book is going to be turned into a movie called No Fixed Address. And Michael, you've got quite a story to tell. You tell us, first of all, how you wrote the book, the inspiration behind it, and we're going to get into the fact that you were a homeless guy for a long time.
Yeah, I was, yeah. When I was a young guy, spent about 5 years in a vehicle at 16, and it's funny, I look at the 16-year-olds now and they playing with their phones and they really don't have an idea what it's like. And this whole book, the way the book is wrote, the way the movie is so prevalent now is because I think everybody in this day and age is like 2 paychecks away from homelessness. Back then, in the 80s, it was not that different with the oil crashing and booming and stuff like that. And I became homeless circumstantially. Sometimes the white picket fence doesn't always come your way, and I used what I had, and I had an old car. I had an old Firebird. And that became home, and that became home for around 5 years, off and on. Yeah.
So what's the essence of the story that you wrote?
The essence of the story is based on a homeless man who is looking through a dumpster to find bottles. Empties is their main income, recyclables. And he pulls back a bag of trash and he finds a newborn baby girl, 6 days old and wrapped in an old blanket and barely alive, and that baby starts to cry, and he doesn't know what to do. I mean, he's a no one, he's a nobody, but he grabs that baby and he runs, and he's sitting in that car, and he's a homeless guy, and he's sitting he's looking across the street at a social services office where he plans to dump the baby and run. And he decides for the first time in his life that he's not running, and he's going to make a stand, and he's going to raise that baby and be its father. He decides for the first time in his life not to run. And that's when the story starts, because in the end it's a love story, but it's based on a murder. So it goes pretty crazy from there.
This is based on some truth for you.
It is. It was based on a note I wrote to my best friend when I was a kid, and I couldn't finish it. I had trouble saying one word, and because I had trouble saying that one word, things change. And it's funny how life is. I put that note away. I thought, oh, I'll finish it later. And it took me 5 years to actually arrest the situation.
So what's that one word?
I wish I could say that word. I wish I could say that word. You know what? You kind of have to read the book and you'll know that word. Okay. And that's not a book plug, but that's a very scary word for me. And I think you have to go through the story before you can understand why.
Now, people will see someone who they would perceive to be homeless, and there's a stigma attached to that. Take us through that.
You know, homelessness, it can be anybody. Like I say, I mentioned 2 paychecks away from homelessness. And, I mean, you see the drunk sleeping in a bus shelter. That's not homelessness. That is. But the real homelessness is the people under the stairwells, under the bridge, in the thickets by the river, which I will show you. I mean, shelter becomes so basic when you don't have it. It's not about the big fancy bed, it's about lying straight, and sometimes it's just about heat and not being bothered. Underneath stairwells, in the thickets by the river, as I mentioned, parkades in the back of your vehicle. And the book has been often said, like a lot of people say, it's homelessness 101. It's a how-to. It's a dummy's guide to homelessness. And there's so many places that you would walk by every day, and unless you've been in it, it's really hard to see it. But once you've been in it, you'll never get out of it. It's very difficult.
Homelessness, in a sense, becomes your home, doesn't it?
Oh, you get so institutionalized. It becomes what you know. It's the devil you know. And it becomes so hard. You can look at that door handle all day, every day, but reaching out to it is the hardest thing in the world. It's right here. You can't leave it. It's institutionalized.
Can you get out of it?
You can. It takes a lot of understanding. It takes you have to. It's psychologically. It's not about getting a job. It's not about getting money. It's not about anything. It's about understanding why you were there in the first place. That's the only doorway. The only doorway out is the doorway you came in on.
And just because you're a homeless guy doesn't mean that you're not that you are a bad person. You're a good person.
You betcha. There's a lot of good people out there that they're not working with the oil in the toilet. Lately. You're going to see a lot more of this. You're going to see a kind of an underworld and of the homeless. I mean, you walk by a vehicle and you see it doesn't look like. You walk by any parking lot. It's funny, when I was in my car, we band together. Everybody bands together. It's usually flea markets or parking lots, someplace local, because you are a target and you are no one. And there's crazy people out there. You really band together. And it's really funny how you can look around and you can see different, there's people there. You know their households. You just know it, and that just comes with time, eh?
Okay, Mike, we're down close by the river.
Yeah.
There's lots of what you call living pods along here. Why don't you take us through what some homeless people will be dealing with?
Okay. In the summer times, it's the best time for being homeless. There's all kinds. If you don't have a vehicle, if you don't have nothing but the boots you're wearing, places down by the river. I mean, and there's all kinds of other stuff that goes on down here. We're not under any illusion. But once these grow in with leaves, and especially in the bigger cities down by the rivers, they become living pods, and they are jammed in the summer times. I just want to walk you through. It's hard to see them now, but you understand that in the summertime, at nighttime, very populated in any major center. So we're just gonna come this way. And like I say, this is a standard when you got no place. What constitutes a ceiling and a wall is all different. So it's a little bit rough in here.
I'm hoping the camera guy doesn't get poked in the eye. Okay,
Yes.
so this is kind of the area.
This is the area. I mean, and all inside of there, if they can get a shot, all in here, like these will all be bedded down. Like that could be there'd be a sleeping bag in there. There'd be another guy around there, and it would just because when these come in with the leaves, you can't see inside. It's very difficult unless you crawl in. In some of the cities, the holes are only about that big. They're like little rabbit holes. And it's funny. I mentioned the book. You better pick the right rabbit hole to walk under.
People are very territorial about their.
Very territorial. Never ever go near anything if you see it in there. If there's stuff in there, if there's anything in there, that constitutes as property. And very territorial and very vicious sometimes. So you got to be very careful.
This area, you'd call it high rent district.
This would be the high rent district, and underneath the bridge along the top, that's penthouse. Yeah.
Now the movie is coming out. We need money for it. Go to Indiegogo, and we would really appreciate your support to get this whole story out. And you really want to get the story about homelessness out.
And that's the basic. Yes, we are underway on an Indigo campaign right now. We are looking for the funding to do because, the bottom line is I want to expose homelessness as not this big dirty secret. It can be anybody. It could have been me. It was me. And nobody ever knew. Nobody knew I was really good at what I did. And there's people you walk on the street every day, they're homeless and you don't know it, and they'll never tell you. It's an embarrassment, and it's hard on them. It's mentally, like I say, the hardest thing is reaching out for that door handle. So if we can raise awareness and help out this cause and this epidemic, that's my goal. That's it.
Well said.
That's all. Yeah.
What's the message you want to have for people right now?
I want to say that everybody, we all got mortgages, and most people have mortgages and families, and if something really bad happens, 2 paychecks away from this, guard against it, look ahead, simplify. If I have one message I can say about simplify so this doesn't happen. There's all kinds of things you can do, tons of things. Try, that sort of thing. Is just simplify. Don't look at the homeless as people who are bad. Understand that it was a situation. There's always forks in the road. Sometimes you take the wrong road, and sometimes it's not even your fault, and things happen.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you very much, Mark. I appreciate that.